Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. It might be an early one, but we want to get into what's going on with Manchester United because there's a lot of noise out there from the news last night that there's been an 11th hour bid, a late bid from QATAR to buy Manchester United for about £5.5 billion. There's a power play here though, and Sir Jim is still in the lead. Ridiculous amounts of stuff coming out last night. We predicted this, the division in the fan base. There's silly accusations that certain outlets are being paid by either of the bids. I would hope that nobody thinks the United Stand is, because that's categorically not true. We've always communicated our position, probably more than most as a community, that we want a full sale and we want the Glazers out. And whoever represents that has to be the bid that you go for. It's nothing to do with being paid by anybody. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe was looking to buy all of the club, he'd probably have more support. But I think there's a power play here, and that's why we've got Sir Jim and Joel on the cover of the thumbnail, because I still feel that they're in control. In a very simple way, Sir Jim Ratcliffe offer may not be improved upon. We were talking last night that surely he will. It may not be when you think about it, because the reality is he's valuing the club. Well, he's offering £3 billion for half of the club to pay off 4 of the Glazer siblings, but keep Joel and Avram. There are 6 Glazers. Joel and Avram will stay. 4 of them will go. He'll pay £3 billion for half of that 50%, which will go to 4 people, which works out at £750 million each. Hold that, £750 million each to 4 Glazers. The New York Stock Exchange stay with 31%, and Joel and Avram have about 20% between them, and they stay. That's the offer on the table. We'll talk about the morals of that in a minute. Al Thani's always wanted to buy all of the club. He's the only one who wants to buy all of the club, 100%. So Jim was only ever rumoured to be buying 69%. He's now gone down to 50%. So £750 million each for the 4 Glazers under the Sir Jim offer. Joel and Avram stay, New York Stock Exchange stays, Sir Jim owns 50% and goes forward on this venture that he's confident about, but a lot of people are concerned about. Al Thani's offer, if it is £5.5 billion, which we think it is, £5.5 billion divided by 2 equals 2.75 million. Divided by 4 equals 687 million. And the reason we're doing that is we're dividing the 5.5 billion by Al Thani into 2, which is 2.75 million for half of the club, and then we're dividing by 4 for the Glazer siblings, which would be about 678 million, which is less than the 750 million that they'll get from Sir Jim. It gets more complex than that, but that's why people are saying, well, Sir Jim's going to win, because Sir Jim's are actually still offering those 4 Glazer siblings more than what it works out for Al Thani. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is playing a game here that most of us don't like, because morally it's not great to get into bed with the Glazers, only buy half of the club. It's not a full sale and it's not the removal of the Glazers. Morally, it doesn't sit tight with a lot of United fans. But there are no morals in football. There are no morals in business. This is the line that Al Thani and many people wouldn't cross, because they want to buy all of the club. They want all of the club. Whether they want the Glazers out or a full sale, I would always say it's very important to acknowledge. I don't think Al Thani's there with his green and gold scarf saying Glazers out and I want a full sale. I think that needs to be made very, very clear. They're not a champion of the fans. They just want to buy all of the club, and that fits in with what we want. Sometimes ideologies come together because ultimately they match up. It doesn't mean that the reasons behind them are the same. But Al Thani is the only one who wants to buy the whole club. There are concerns around that from Manchester United's side, which we'll talk about briefly in a moment. But Sir Jim has gone from wanting to buy the whole club to doing a deal that nobody else will do. He's basically crossed the line of morals in what we want as fans. You know, Sol Campbell went from Spurs to Arsenal. In a footballing sense, you've crossed the divide. Figo did it, going from Barcelona to Real Madrid. It's a little bit like, you know, you've got an ex-girlfriend, you've got a close-knit group of friends, and then you find out your best mate's going out with your ex-girlfriend. It happens. It happens. You know, it's not what you believe should happen. It's not what most people would do. But it happens, and it happens a lot more in business. It's happened to me. I've worked with somebody, you know, you train them up, you work them hard, they're your mate, they meet your families, and then the next day they're stabbing you in the back and going off and taking all your ideas. And, you know, they do it with a smile on their face. And you just go, I can't believe that. I can't believe Figo would do that. I can't believe Sol Campbell would do that. I can't believe my best mate would do that. I can't believe someone I thought was my mate would do that. You know, but it happens in business more, because in business, people are ruthless. But it does have a big impact. You know, you can't have the excuse, well, it's just business, because it's a football club. So look, I think the power play is with Sir Jim and it is with Joel and Avram. I don't like what Sir Jim's done. I'm open to it. Ultimately, if he owns the club, we've got to get on with it. But I don't like what he's done, and I'm not scared of saying that, because ultimately they've played a power play that none of the fans, most of the fans, I think the majority of the fans don't want. But it's given them the power, and it's given Joel and Avram the power as well. They're in a position now where they can make a decision. If Sir Jim takes himself out of that situation, Joel and Avram are desperate. But basically, Sir Jim has made Joel and Avram very powerful, because they are now in a position where they can refuse a massive offer. I mean, £5.5 billion for Manchester United. Can I just say, there's only one person trying to buy all of the club. There's only ever been one person trying to buy all the club, and therefore there's only one person that represents a full sale and Glazers out, and that's Althani and QATAR. £5.5 billion, we're not even worth £4. So the money has been offered. Ridiculous money has been offered, but they're still in power, and they still have a power play, because Sir Jim's going, stay with me and work with me. So look, I think as we wake up from the news last night, I think, yes, Sir Jim, Joel and Avram have the power play here. And they can basically go ahead with their plan and refuse what I find incredible, which is £5.5 billion. We could wake up in a few weeks' time with Sir Jim, Joel, Avram and the New York Stock Exchange running our football club, knowing somebody offered £5.5 billion for Manchester United. That is incredible. You might call it terrifying. You might call it sad. You might just call it incredible like me. I will find that incredible, that we had an offer on the table for a new start, a full sale, the Glazers out, and it was £5.5 billion, and they still wouldn't go. That terrifies me, because I don't know what the motives of Joel and Avram are. People say, well, you know, people act like they've got Sir Jim as their bloody best mate. Well, no, he's going to get rid of him in 2 years, Mark. He's definitely going to get rid of him. Why don't they want to go now? Why don't they want to go now when there's a world record bid for Manchester United there? Why don't they want to go now? Where's this money coming from that Joel and Avram think they'll get more money in 2 years, 3 years? I don't see this plan. It's speculative. It belongs in a Disney film. You know, it's fantasy. And that's what worries me. But there is a flip side of positivity. The New York Stock Exchange is really interesting, because people think that, and look, this is where we delve into business where most of us are not experts, but if Althani is offering £5.5 billion, people think, well, divide that by 10 and you're getting, you know, what, about 600, 700 million every 10%. That's not true. That's not true, because the deal that you do with the 31% of the New York Stock Exchange is not the same as what you do with the Glazers. They're different types of shares. They're listed shares. It might be that the deal with them is forced upon them to sell their shares at a cheaper price. In which case, if you buy that 31% at a cheaper price, there's more money in the pot for the Glazers. What I'm saying is, and look, there'll be business experts saying you're right or you're wrong. What I'm saying is, you might be buying the full club for £5.5 billion. That doesn't mean that the 31% on the New York Stock Exchange is going to get the same as what the 69% of the Glazers get. In which case, you're not dividing it all by 100 and each 1% gets the same. The 31% on the New York Stock Exchange might not get as much as what the Glazers get. In which case, that 675 million we were talking about could go beyond 750 million that Sir Jim's offering. So there's loads of intricacies of the business world that it's not even worth talking about. The reality is, you've got a full sale, you've got a partial sale. There will be conversations going on between the siblings and Joel and Avram, but if Joel and Avram want to stay, that's the power play, isn't it? And Sir Jim, whether people like it or not, has done a deal that breaks the moral code of what the fans want, and it's allowed him and Joel and Avram to be in a very powerful position. And this pretense that they're not going to be working together and they're going to be enemies is a joke. Joel and Avram have been running this club exclusively for 10 years. They are not going to say to Sir Jim, take your 50%, we'll go to America and have no involvement. That's not going to happen. I've spoken to numerous people about this. That won't happen. If Joel and Avram stay, they might be silent publicly, but they will have a say in what's going on with Manchester United, because you don't go from owning all of the pie to owning 20% and not having any say when you could have walked away with 700-800 million quid each. So they will have a say. But right here, right now, I'm still 50-50, but I still think Sir Jim Radcliffe's got a very big power play in this, because he has done a deal that gives Joel and Avram power, and they can probably afford to turn down $5.5 billion, which to me is incredible. Let's see what the next stage is. I hope that was informative. Get your comments in below. Thanks for watching. We'll speak to you in a bit.